Good evening. My name's Rodney Glover. I am the candidate for governor for Florida. You want to know why I pay so much attention and why I'm pushing so hard to get the support that I need? It's because there are two demographics that need to pay attention more than any other demographic. That is black people and that is women. Do you know why? Because we have faced two things that have kept us from power, kept us from the Constitution. In my personal opinion, the Constitution never did anybody any good until it added those two demographics, until it added access to women and black people. So we had to deal with two things, women and black people. We had to deal with racism and we had to deal with sexism. This is why I'm pushing to give people more control, because those two demographics, by historical context, were the problem. And I'll explain it to you. Article 14, Amendment 14 of the Constitution was the very first time we used the word male in the Constitution. And I want to be sure that you understand that it is going to be found in Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for their choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state. That was the first time that we knew the Constitution was for males only. We already knew that black people didn't have access because we were considered slaves at this time. So there was no room for that. Now, the 14th Amendment had to come in. The 15th Amendment had to come in to fix that. And I want you to understand what it says. Here it is. The 15th Amendment. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. There we go. Black male slaves, right? So now we already had males. So let's be clear. It was only for white males. Then we added black males because there is nowhere in there that added women yet. So we're still dealing with the sexism piece not being written out of the Constitution, which is a problem. So what did we do? We went to the 19th Amendment. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. That's the 19th Amendment. There are two groups of us that have always been fighting racism and sexism. When I tell you that black people and women need to pay the most attention to who you're voting for, that's why. It's because we have had to deal with the isms of racism and sexism. If you are continuing to not vote for power for you, the person you, I'm voting for power for Rodney C. Glover. My middle name is Christopher, but I'm voting for power for me. I'm making sure that if I vote for somebody, that it is empowering me constitutionally. It's empowering me constitutionally. The Constitution didn't empower me, didn't give me access until the 15th Amendment. Black people, the Constitution of the United States of America didn't give you women access until the 19th Amendment. Sexism. Do we still have racism and sexism? Absolutely. But because of this Constitution, we can legally fight against it, even when people are tearing at it. When I tell you that black people and women have been fighting, have been working, have been pushing, and sometimes, and I'll tell you, it has absolutely pushed both demographics, pushed you to your core, and it continues to push both demographics to their core. Everyone is trying to maintain access because when we did not have that access to the law, to the Constitution in the United States of America, when we did not have that access, There were a lot of bad things that were allowed to happen. The women's suffrage movement doesn't get enough conversation. I can tell you, Black people know, and so does the United States of America, that slavery, it definitely will not be forgotten because it was a lot to go through it. You guys have got to pay attention, you two demographics. You cannot give up the power that you fought and bled so hard to get. I'm trying to give you this power individually. What you do with it as a democratic society, how you influence one another as a democratic society, we have yet to know because that power hasn't been given, hasn't been approached in this way. My amendment aims to give you control over elected officials. We have access to the Constitution. We have access to voting. What we're going to do with it matters. But you need to never forget that you didn't start with that your ancestors didn't start with that, and that there was things that had to happen in order for you to get that access. So even though we know that all of the sexism still happens, all of the racism still happens, it's a healthy, legal block. And people today are trying to get around it, but we're always going to have that. The United States of America is going to have to vote together on that in order to remove those things. I'm never voting to remove women from the Constitution of the United States of America. I am never voting to remove Black people from the Constitution of the United States of America. I'm never going to do it. How are you going to use the power if you even want to have it? How are you going to use it so that we make sure that we can keep pushing the good things? Women and Black people have done well in this country too and have had many great things to offer the United States of America. How dare anybody attack either one consistently in a political structure like this? It is because you need to be educated and you need to understand the correlation of what it took to get here. That women's suffrage movement, it isn't talked about enough. It isn't talked about enough. You know why? Because let's be realistic. Black people were not harming people while trying to get access to the Constitution during the times of slavery. We weren't the boogeyman. We were not the boogeyman. That's just the bottom line. Who was? According to the Constitution, there was only one group that had constitutional protections. It wasn't Black women. It wasn't Black men. And it wasn't women in general. We should all be able to come to the same conclusion here. You two demographics need to pay close attention to what you are being offered. And if you don't understand how it's going to empower you, then you need to ask questions. Have a great evening.